Welcome to the Probate Realtor Show, your one source for selling and buying real estate through trust and probate. Hear directly from the best attorneys and trusted advisors on how executors and administrators navigate the probate process in and out of court. Being a personal representative or successor trustee can be a daunting task, and often beneficiaries don't have a clear plan. Let us help you make the right decision for your clients, your family, and your legacy. And now, here's your host, the probate realtor himself, Matias Baker Masucci.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of our show. Today, we are talking to attorney Shirley Millwood. Shirley, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
We are so excited to have you because as I was doing research, I found out something wonderful. You not only have you been practicing law for 14 years, so you're very familiar with the law, but you've made a decision to run for judge, which I think is just wonderful. So I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit, and specifically to run for probate judge. So can you tell our audience, what does a probate judge do?
Probate judge presides over cases in adoptions, conservatorships, guardianships, probating estates, responsible for recording, deeds, UCCs, things of that sort. Also here in Alabama, where the probate judge is responsible for the local elections in our county, and overseeing and ensuring that the elections are handled the way they're supposed to be handled.
Very nice. This is an important time in our country for elections, to make sure that elections are legitimate, right? There's been a lot in the news over the past 2 years or so. So that's a very important job. Now, I know that things are a little bit different, from county to county and obviously from state to state. In your jurisdiction, how busy are the courts? Are the courts busy? Do you have a lot of probate judges? And was that a reason, like when you're taking on, made you decide like, okay, I'm going to do it because my help is needed? And, what was one of the deciding factor, I guess?
So our current judge has decided that she's not going to run again. She's finishing out her third term. She has done an excellent job. And Judge Martin was a practicing lawyer before she took the bench and became the probate judge. In Alabama, fun fact, or maybe not fun fact, but you're not required to be a licensed lawyer to be a probate judge. Alabama, there are a few of the larger counties that have passed local ordinances that require that. Calhoun County is not one of them. As a practicing lawyer, I obviously want a practicing lawyer, a licensed lawyer, to be sitting on the bench, making orders, entering orders, and hearing cases. So when I learned that Judge Martin was not going to run again, I just felt like God laid it on my heart and said, "This is what you have to do." I'd never inspired to be a judge. I opened my practice in a rural area. I'm the first law firm there in that area in Alexandria. 14 years later, I'm still the only law firm there. So I have a successful practice. And God has a way of changing our plans, and that's what He has done here. And so there's a need to have someone who's experienced for this position. And I certainly feel like I'm more than qualified to take the seat.
That's great. That makes total sense. Now, I know that, you don't practice just probate, especially what you said, like you serve a community that has more needs than just probate. So over the years, I'm sure you've practiced in different areas. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir. I first went to work in the legal field in 1997. I'm not trying to tell my age, but it's been a while. It's been more than 25 years. And so I worked for lawyers for 12 years while I went to school and got my Juris Doctorate. And then I started my own practice. So during that time, I've worked in a very diverse, lots of areas of the practice of law. When I started my practice, I went out and hung my own shingle. And so just kind of taking, whatever came in the door, so to speak. And then as the years passed, it evolved into basically primarily been handling family law cases and probate cases. And that's probably about all I've done for the last 6 or 7 years. My practice is so busy, I don't have time for any other areas of the law.
Oh, okay, great. So over the years, you've focused more and more into probate, and then it's become like a large portion of your practice.
Yes, that and family law.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now, as far as choosing, I'm sure there are other judges in your jurisdiction that handle different matters. So you are already being familiar with probate, just like you said. Like sometimes you don't get to decide your path. Like, there is a light somewhere, and you're like, okay, that's where I gotta go. There's a sign. There's a sign. So how do you feel? One of the things that I spend a lot of time in probate court to confirm sales over here, real estate sales, sometimes when they have limited authority or conservatorships, they need to be confirmed in court. One of the things that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, there's a lot of emotions, especially in Los Angeles. It's a very busy probate court. And it's like sometimes like a Jerry Springer episode. Dad didn't love you, like blah, 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 and things like that. How do you plan? You have to be impartial. What is one of the things that how are you going to balance all the personal emotions that are in probate court when because you're dealing with people that have deceased, people have just experienced something like that. You feel that it's going to impact your fairness is the first part of the questions, and the second, if not, how do you feel to overcome those things to make sure that your decisions are equitable?
So that goes back to some of my personal experiences.
Okay.
In dealing with probate court, you deal with a lot of death. Fortunately, that's what a lot of that is. And I've experienced a lot of loss in my life, including the loss of my own child 5 years ago. And so as a parent, losing a child is the worst tragedy that you can endure.
Definitely.
So I've spent the last 5 years learning to overcome, not necessarily overcoming, but learning to navigate through grief. And since then, I've lost my stepmother, my father-in-law. So I've endured and experienced a lot of loss in my life. I feel like that makes me more understanding, more compassionate. After losing my son, I had to educate myself on grief and how to navigate through that grief journey, and started about 4.5 years ago, made the decision that I had to have a healthy healing journey.
Of course.
And so with that, I've also learned the importance of mental health, which is a thing that the probate court handles, our commitment hearings. And so I realized the importance of mental health as well, taking my personal experience and applying that. But then also in my professional experience, I have represented respondents in commitment hearings, persons who are alleged to be mentally ill and a danger to himself or to others. I also have represented people who have lost loved ones, and they come to me and they need to file a petition for dependency to get custody of their grandchildren or their nieces or nephews or whoever. I had to learn many, many years ago, early in my practice, that I can't take everything personal into heart. I did that early on, and I'll tell you, I quickly learned that if I didn't stop, I was going to be on the 5th floor. And they say lawyers are emotionless people, and it's not that we don't have emotions, it's that we have to learn to separate our emotions from our business. And we have to treat our business as a business deal instead of putting all of our personal emotions into that. And so I had to learn many years ago to make decisions. Even in my personal life, I make decisions based on I treat everything as a business decision, and I don't make decisions based on emotions. So between my personal and professional experience, I had to bring that to the bench and be able to set my personal emotions aside and apply the law to the facts and enter rulings that will base the law on the facts.
Thank you for that, and thank you very much for sharing. The loss you've experienced. That's I have had the opportunity to represent parents in the sale of real estate of their kids. Obviously that is, as you said, the greatest loss that anybody could experience. So, in a sense, as you were talking about your path before, I think this experience that you've had in your life gives you such great empathy that the people that will stand in front of you in your court will be very fortunate to have somebody who can understand what they're going through right at the moment when they are in front of you. So thank you very much for sharing that. Another question that I wanted to ask you is, probate law, at least in California, there's always constantly I don't want to say that it's fluid and it changes all the time, but I feel like it's like particularly with we had like some high profile cases in conservatorships and things like that. How important do you feel it is to stay current with probate matters, as a from the bench, with updates in the law and the things and how things are changing, and how do you plan to do that when you are elected judge?
Well, that is absolutely 100% critical that you're able to keep up with the updates. Every Friday, our higher courts render opinions, or they publish decisions. And
Right.
so we get those decisions every Friday. And as a practicing lawyer, I do my very best, and I can't promise you that every single week I've read all of those opinions, because some weeks just don't allow that. But every week I at least go through the list of decisions that were published and get an overview, and then I'll take those decisions that are applicable to the law that I practice, and I read those decisions. And sometimes I have a certain folder on my laptop, and I'll save it over here that says, hey, I've got to read this, and then I'll sit down and read those decisions. So that's something that I've been to many years. In fact, before I even started practicing law, because I worked for lawyers and I was in law school for nearly 4 years, that was something that I've always done. And I obviously intend to continue doing that.
That's great. And since you brought it up, let's talk about your journey. What made you decide to become an attorney? This is you started working in the world of law, and then you made the decision. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did. I went through a divorce, and I was a single mom with 3 children.
Wow.
And my children were 6, 3.5, and 9 months old.
Wow.
And I was sitting there one day and looked around and said, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to take care of these children? And I'm a first generation college grad, so I did not know what I needed to do to start college. So I picked up the phone, I called the local college, and I said, hey, I don't know what to do except call you. And the lady said, come in and see me. So I went in the next day, but I told her, I said, well, I need to get a babysitter for my children. And she said, bring them with you. And
oh, wow.
Yes. So I went in the next day and I met with her, and I took my 3 small children with me, and she helped provide resources for me so that I could get into school, so that I could get some assistance to help me provide daycare for my children so that I could go to school. And that afternoon I got home, and the paralegal at my lawyer's office had called and left a message, and they called to offer me a part-time job. So I started school and started college and started working for them part-time, all in the same week.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that eventually over time evolved into a full-time job at the lawyer's office. And I continued on my journey. I spent 12 years going to college. I had to take some time off here and there. I was a single parent for 15 years, raising my children,
Wow.
working full-time. And so it was, when I was in the legal field, I remember maybe the first week I was there, I was filing papers in the filing cabinet. Like I started at the bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
And I was filing papers in the filing cabinet, and the paralegal said, I said, you know, I really like this. And she said, oh, you're going to get tired of it eventually. It's just a cat and mouse game. It's a constant mouse game. And I said, well, I really like this. And so the longer I stayed there, the more I liked it. And I went to college to get my associates in criminal justice. And from there, it just sort of evolved to where, hey, I'm going to go to law school. And so that's what happened.
Wow, that's wonderful. What a great story. What a great and inspiring story. I think, I have 4 children myself, and they're all under the age of 7 now. So my house, it's a lot of poopy diapers, let's just say that.
Yes.
And I have to say that, the fact my wife and I are doing it together, and to imagine that you were a single mother with 3 kids and decided to go to school. Wow. All I can say is that the people of Alexandria, Alabama, is that correct, where the town is that you're in, Alexandria?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, those people are very blessed to have you. Let me say that. Yeah, very inspiring story. Okay, before I let you go, I wanted to, I like to do a little back of the business card type of question. So I have a list of 30 random questions. I wanted to pick your number from 1 to 30, if you will, and I will ask you that question.
I have to go with 7.
7. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so what sound or noise do you love?
Country music.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's great. Okay, let me ask you another question. When you're not practicing law, being a mother, what do you love to do? What are the things that you love doing?
I love spending time with my children, my grandchildren, and I am always working on projects. I love gardening.
Nice.
I learned some years ago, gardening became my therapy. and
That's great.
so gardening, but I'm always working on projects. I'm always remodeling something in my house. In fact, my late son, when he passed away, he was in the middle of remodeling his house.
Mm.
And so I had came over to his house a few times and tried to continue that project that he had started, and just had a tough journey there for a little while. Then in 2020, I started taking care of my father, and I took care of him for 2 years before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier this year, I decided the only way I'm going to get over to my son's house and to get it remodeled is to move into it.
Oh, wow.
And I was living on the lake. That was one of my ultimate goals in life after finishing law school, was to live on the lake. I was living on the lake and gave up my lake house, put it on as a short-term rental, and I have moved to my son's house now, and I'm in my son's house remodeling it. So that pretty much, aside from working, which I work a lot, I probably easily work 70, 80 hours a week.
Wow.
Between that and now campaigning, and then working on around his house, getting things done. So I'm always busy doing something, always.
Right.
I can't sit still.
That's great. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I love it. I want to wish you absolutely the best of luck with everything, and particularly with with your now yet another chapter in your life that you are brave enough to take a chance on of running as a judge. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I will be sure to follow up and see what happens with the election, and so I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. And so thank you very much for being on the show, and I will definitely keep an eye out on the progress that happens over there in Alabama.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. We'll see you on the next
Bye-bye.
episode.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Probate Realtor Show. Find more episodes and interact with us at probaterealtor.la. That's probaterealtor.la. Listen, ask questions, and get results. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The Probate Realtor Matias Baker Masucci is a licensed real estate broker in California, DRE number 020547763. Any legal information provided is for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. Contact an attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal issue or problem. We make no guarantees as to the accuracy of any information. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.